What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. Today we have a bunch of different teams that are taking on the brand new KIZUNA Clash versus Luffy and Ace. So of course this is a really good opportunity to pick up those Super Evolution Skulls to get that character to 6-star plus, which is going to be a lot of fun. So of course we have two separate accessible teams for each variation in this video. We also have another set of teams against each variation, which utilizes a friend captain, Crocodile, and Doffy, which we didn't show in my preparation video. So these are new teams you guys can have a look at, as well as the one team versus all, which does utilize the Crocodile and Doflamingo, which I was lucky enough to pull in the Sugo Fest, of course. So this team that you're seeing here is the Luffy team, the Stampede Luffy team that we talked about in the preparation video. We talked about how this team exactly works, utilizing the Shanks character to allow us to get rid of the threshold on this stage too. Another thing I kind of overlooked was the fact that Shanks also has Super Tandem, which synergizes with the Luffy. So that's actually really cool. If you can secure a tandem slot, being able to get that on the final stage to just give you a bit more extra damage is actually pretty dope. Moving on to the second team versus the Int variation, this is going to be using Shanks Crew as the main captain. They're actually really good for this KIZUNA all round because of course you can have the two variations, you can have the Psy version or you can have the quick version, and because there is actually an Int boss and a Strength boss, you know, he's actually pretty good against both of those variations. So I know that some people out there are trying to develop their own one team versus all, and some people are opting to use Shanks Crew as their main captain, which does make a lot of sense. Now there is one thing you do have to keep in mind with this Int variation, and that is the fact that when you reach the final stage, your friend captain will be inflicted with stun. So you need to have a special that can remove stun. There is that treasure map Sanji Nami character that can remove it, but you do also need something potentially like a support effect that can, you know, do a health cut to your crew. Something like that, or a special that can do a health cut to your crew. Very important that you have that so that you can remove that stun so that your friend captain is actually accessible and ready to go. So there's also paralysis, there is despair on the final boss stage as well. This Zoro, free-to-play Zoro, is really good because with the Luffy support attached to him, you can remove the threshold on the enemy stage as well as give a actually it might be even higher. I think it might be a 2.25 times orb boost for 3 turns, and that is with level limit break 5. So that free-to-play Zoro, fantastic unit. And then of course we save Chopper for the final stage to remove all of the despair, the paralysis, and also the bind that was inflicted on the previous stage. So that Chopper coming in super clutch. So now we get to move on to the other team that was versus the Int variation, but this time we're using the Crocodile and Doflamingo friend captain. It doesn't really matter which Croc or Doffy is the captain. I guess it really depends on what type of like color affinity or orb boosting effect that you have on the team, because, you know, if it's an orb boost that only affects, you know, quick characters, then you want to make sure that Doflamingo is available, just stuff like that. But for this variation, I guess it didn't really matter that much. One thing to note though is that we do have Germa on the team, and they only provide an orb boost to Psy characters, so that is kind of something that that doesn't really synergize well with this team, but the main reason why we do have Germa on the team is because, of course, they do provide an orb boost of some kind to the crew, which means Doflamingo and Crocodile won't be hitting as hard as the rest of the crew, but it is still an orb boost you can get. But the thing is that Pudding attaches to Reiju, and Reiju is a part of the Germa 66 unit, so that means that when we reach the final stage, the support of Pudding will proc, which will remove the stun effect that occurs on the final stage, which is fantastic for the crew. We do have the World Journey Koala, which gets around most of the debuffs here on stage 2, which is fantastic. We also have Mihawk and Perona, because you can use their conditional boost on this stage, because the immunity is only to poison, delay, and defense down, so it's not a full immunity. So stuff like Ignite, the negative effect like you see here, stuff like that will actually work against this boss, which is really, really nice to see. And now we get to my one team versus all, which is going to be utilizing Crocodile and Doflamingo with the sub of the Mihawk, which we were lucky enough to pull during the Sugo Fest. Now, the only real thing about this team that is annoying is that we do actually have to do 2 turns of stall on stage 1, and that is to ensure that Frankie Special is ready to go when we reach the final stage. And that's very important that we have Frankie ready to go, specifically on the int variation and on the strength variation. Actually, he is pretty important to have versus quick as well, because he does also remove 6 turns of defense up, but the main thing is because of the chain lock that he provides to the crew. It's a 3.5 chain lock, which allows us to get around the chain attack down on the int and strength variation, and then of course, as we said, the defense up to remove it on the quick variation is very, very important. Sasaki is really nice here too. He gets around the damage threshold as well as providing an orb boost to the crew, so just gives us a bit of additional damage. We do also have Perispero, which we could potentially use as well on stage 2 to give us additional damage, and luckily, of course, Doflamingo and Crocodile as well as Mihawk are actually super effective against all types, so color affinity is even more useful on those mini boss stages. So now we can go ahead and move on to the second variation of bosses, which is versus the quick boss. So the first one that we have here is one of the accessible quote-unquote teams that I did build. There was something that I did overlook though, and that is the fact that the special of Killer only provides a 1-turn orb boost. And I thought that he did a 2-turn orb boost, so that was a bit of a mistake on my behalf. So what that actually means is that when we use Killer special on the last stage, while yes, it is good because it does remove the enemy's defense up, the bad thing about it is the fact that it only, well, the enemy's intimidation removes the orb boost from Killer, so that obviously doesn't really work out too well. So realistically, if you're using a similar team, you definitely want to try and find a way around that, and it is annoying with stage 2 here because of that int slot barrier as well as the burn that gets inflicted here. It means that you really have to find ways specifically to get around that. Obviously, if you are using the friend captain Croc and Doffy, their switch effect deals with that pretty comfortably. but still what we're doing here is we're using Moria and Blackbeard. Blackbeard just will single-handedly deal with the boss itself, but we also use Moria because when we use his special, we get the clock buff, and when that expires on the last stage, we get given a color affinity boost to Driven and Powerhouse, which is essentially the whole team. Perospera is not required at all in this team, so you could probably switch him out for something that will help you out if you don't have him. The reason why he is here though is because he does provide a decent chain boundary, which is pretty good. Unfortunately, we can't get the conditional boost from Akainu this time around, as the enemy is only allowed to be inflicted with defense down instead. The second team here actually surprised me because this team is actually pretty solid. I think Shiki is a really good choice that a lot of people are going to go for in this KIZUNA clash. And the main reason is because when you have his super evolution and at least have him at level limit break 3, you're going to get access to his buffed captain ability, which will go ahead and remove 5 turns of despair. He also provides buffs to Dex, Quick, and Int characters, and he has a pretty good special too, allowing you to get an orb boosting effect, and we do make full use of that here. Remember, there is intimidation on the last stage, and because Shiki's orb boost is only for 1 turn, then we might as well use it on the mini boss stage. And by doing an orb boost, it's going to activate Queen to activate his special ability on the final stage, which is perfect for us, which means that we can use Queen on stage 2, so we get some pretty serious damage potential here, which is fantastic. And of course we have the Amand to remove the barrier instead of just trying to pierce it with an int slot. We also have the Crocodile, the World Journey Crocodile, to remove the burn on our crew. And then when we reach the last stage, we have this free-to-play Blackbeard, who is fantastic because he does set the enemy's defense to 0 and gives you a conditional boost, but he also is just a fantastic unit because of that, you know, just basically doing a multi-purpose functionality, right? Being able to remove a bunch of different effects in one is super, super useful. And then, of course, because we are using Queen, we get access to super typing, so our Dex characters will be hitting hard. Even though we only have 2 Dex characters on the team, this is actually still a pretty solid crew to get through this fight. Speaking of solid crews to get through this fight, this team with the friend captain, Crocodile, and Doflamingo is fantastic. It just does a lot of damage. You're not really going to have to worry about changing this team for quite a long time. So with this team here, what we're able to do is on the second stage where we have the barrier and the burn, of course, we can just use the Akainu special on that stage. It's not really a big issue. Akainu will remove the burn for us, and then we can use the switch ability of Croc and Doffy to switch into Doflamingo, and of course, Doflamingo having great synergy with the rest of the crew, as he is a Dex unit, and the rest of the crew is either Driven or Powerhouse, which is fantastic. And, well, aside from Lore, actually, Lore is Cerebral, sorry. Driven and Cerebral is what I meant to say, not Driven and Powerhouse. So, of course, when we activate the switch ability, we get the full board of int slots, and because of the fact that Croc and Doffy have the boosted stats and they're super effective against all types, it's not really a big issue for this stage. You know, a full Dex team going up against a strength boss is normally not what you want to happen, but of course, because of their buffs, we actually can get through that pretty comfortably. And then we get to the final stage and we have Croc removes the Despair Elves as well as gives us color affinity boost, Lore attack boost, he has the increased damage taken on the enemy as well, which is so good. And we also have the support of the Sengoku, which can change all slots into whatever slot that the Law has, and we want a full border deck slots, which is fantastic. We have Blackbeard, which we talked about in the previous clip. He's fantastic. And this Stampede Zora is just a driven dex unit that gives you a 2-turn orb boost. Remember, you need to have an orb boost that lasts for at least 2 turns for it not to be removed via the Intimidate, which is very, very important. And now we have our one team versus all. So going back to this team here with the Frankie and stuff, Frankie is very important to remove that defense up on the final boss stage. Remember, we do have to actually get a little bit of stall in to ensure that Frankie is actually ready to go. So the thing is with this team, we actually do not remove the burn on stage 2. We are using the switch ability of one of the Croc and Doffys to get the full board of int slots, of course. And, you know, we can go ahead and use the special ability of Perispero to get a color affinity boost to give us more damage. And realistically, we actually don't even need Sasaki on the final stage as well, so we can use it here. Something that I kind of overlooked, you really should use Sasaki first, and then go ahead and use the switch ability, so you don't have to deal with some of the slots being int, some of them not being int. You need to tap with an int slot first to break that barrier, but of course, Doffy and Croc just do so much damage because of all the stat boost, it's not really a big problem. And then we'll reach the final stage, the Mihawk, of course, he removes Despair as well as gives us an orb boost for 2 turns, so we'll go down to 1 turn after the Intimidation removal. We have Frankie for the Chain Lock and removing the defense up on the enemy, and Perispero for a color affinity, and of course Doffy Croc for that massive attack boost. So a pretty fun team, gets the job done, and we can move on now to the final boss variation. So now we can go ahead and have a look at the final boss, which is versus Strength, and the first team here is one of the ones from the accessible team, so we're going to be going ahead and using Shanks Crew once again. We talked about him a little earlier. Shanks Crew is just a really good choice for this KIZUNA clash in general, and we do have Carrot on the team for this one. Carrot is really good too, because she deals with the special reverse on the final stage, as well as being able to have the ability to become the captain with her special, which is important, because after level 31, the enemy will inflict a barrier. It's a 20 hit combo barrier, and it only lasts for 1 turn, so if you have a way to remove barriers, that's really not an issue at all. But of course, if you're using Carrot, you can just bypass it altogether, and you don't even have to worry about it, which is pretty good. And then of course we have the Law and the Luffy character, which can give us an orb boost or an attack boost. They both have reduced redundancy type specials, so that really isn't an issue for us at all. And then of course we have the Usopp, which can remove up to 6 turns of attack down, and he also delays the enemy and gives us a conditional boost. So the strength variation of this KIZUNA is really built around that Usopp. He helps you a lot, deals with a lot of the information, or the gimmicks, should we say, as well as giving you even more damage with that conditional boost. So very, very good choice for this dungeon. And now we get to the little bit of an awkward one. This team here using Kaido Crew really wanted to go ahead and use him because I haven't used this character in such a long time as a captain. But there was a bit of an oversight here, so this team actually did end up losing, but I'll show you guys at the end of this clip. We do actually make some changes to the team. And the real issue really spawned from the fact that I have a very specific support attached to Hody Jones, which is that Vanderdecken. So Vanderdecken was aimed to be used on the final stage to remove bind on the crew, so that plus the Raizo support will actually remove all the bind for us. Unfortunately, I completely overlooked the fact that, we get special binded on stage 2, and that will activate the support of the Vanderdecken. So unfortunately, that is not what we wanted to happen. So yeah, that's obviously a big issue. So at the end of this clip, as I said, I do change the team around a little bit, at least in one specific capacity, which will make the team work. But of course, this is not really a team that I would recommend, but just showing you guys teams that can actually work against it. This one doesn't work, but of course, with the right switch, you can actually get it to work. But it is still interesting either way to get a team like this to work versus this quest. It's a very, very odd team using Kaido Crew, a very, very weird designed unit. And honestly, Kaido Crew, if he did get a super evolution, could become a really strong unit. But as it stands right now, with the fact that you have to build with like a full powerhouse team, but also with strength and quick, and he's a color affinity special, he's just a really clunky unit to build for. Just a really, really weird one. Alright, so now we can have a look at the other team that I have, using Crocodile and Doflamingo as the friend captain, using Shanks Crew as the captain this time around too. Another thing to note is we do have the Perispero support attached to Shanks Crew. You do not need that at all, because I completely overlooked the fact that Shanks Crew already locks slots with their special. Actually a really good unit, a lot of people clown on Shanks Crew when he first came out, when he was released, and while yes, they definitely could have done things to make him better than what he is, he's still a really good unit, and he's still going to see a lot of play moving forward due to the rainbow capacity to deal with so many different things. So he's still a really solid unit, so don't clown on Shanks Crew too much. He's still very, very good. But in terms of dealing everything here, so the way that we're dealing with the gimmicks on the stage 2, we have to do a special bind. Obviously, the captain deals with that. But when we use the special to become the dual unit, we can just tap at least one perfect to do end of turn damage with the Shanks Crew captain. So we don't have to deal with that at all. And due to the fact that we use their special as well, we get a 3-turn color affinity boost. If you used their special in their quick form, you will get a base attack boost instead. So that is a little bit different. But either way, it's still a 3-turn boost that we can carry over to the last stage. And then we have to deal with special reverse, obviously, which is why Hack is here. I believe Hack also removes the shield, the combo that does occur, the combo barrier post level 31. And we do have the rest of the specials as well, Luffy and Law for attack and all boost. We've got Croc, Doffy to do all the things that they love to do, and then the Usopp once again, because Usopp just kind of deals with a lot of things on this stage and is just a very useful unit for this quest. And then finally we get to the last team of the video, which is the one team versus all against the strength variation. Once again, we do have to do a couple of turns of stall on stage 1 to ensure that Frankie is ready to go for the final stage. Frankie is very useful because he will remove the defense up, which was obviously on the other quest, but he does give us the chain lock. It's a 3.5 chain lock, and that is very, very key for this fight, because on level 31 and above for versus strength, the enemy is going to give you a chain attack down, but it's not like a typical chain attack down. They actually restrict how high your chain can go. So they say that if your chain exceeds 3.76, that's when the attack down is inflicted. So you actually want to keep your chain below 3.7 or 3.75 or below is what you want to keep it at. So it's very important that you notice that, because if you don't, your team may not work as intended. So be very, very cautious of that. Once again, there's attack down, which the Mihawk deals with, and of course Croc and Doffy do what they like to do. Sparrow, of course, for color affinity and dealing with the special reverse, which is also very, very key. So that is going to wrap it up from me. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.
邪魔すんじゃねえよ。少しは構成して出てきたかと思えば。